3 mindset shifts to win the year. Long-term success is not about pushing harder. It's about how well we lead ourselves through pressure, uncertainty, and imperfection. People who truly thrive play the long game. The 3 mindset shifts in this video combine high-performance best practices with lessons I have learned in more than 2 decades in different sales and leadership functions at Google and IBM. Let's dive in. The foundation of a strong mindset is taking full ownership of what is in our control, such as our thoughts, our actions and reactions, as well as our behavior. A simple example of taking ownership is this. After a setback, ask yourself, what exactly was my part and what will I do differently next time? And write it down. The takeaway here, a mindset of ownership is the foundation for long-term success. So let's start by gaining clarity about our ideal behavior. Pressure creates urgency, whereas clarity provides direction. High performers regularly step back to gain clarity about their situation, their goals, and how they want to show up. To gain clarity about your ideal behavior, ask yourself this. Who do I want to be this year? How do I want to show up in a social context? And what target behavior drives your success? I'd recommend you to pause the video, to take a print screen and calmly define your ideals. Imagine being shown this sheet at the end of your life, and it lists the words that describe how you truly lived from now until the end. What would you want to see on it? What would you be proud of? As you can see, I've added some examples, but it is important that you choose the ones that fit for you, that make sense for your life and your priorities. The ideal behaviors you define become your North Star. I would recommend you to print it out, to pin it to a wall where you see it every day, or to activate an alarm on your phone to remind you of these words. But what is important is that you write down also what these words mean for you, what actions, such as in the examples, you want to specifically take. The more clear, the more specific it is, the easier it is to execute and to activate. And what is also clear is that, of course, our behavior does not change from one day to the other just because of defining some words. But the idea here is that we grow into that, such as, for example, if your ideal behavior would be that you want to be more courageous in a situation where you are afraid, you simply ask yourself, how would the most courageous version of you calmly act in such a situation? And try to visualize it. And then to do it. That's an example of how you can make it work in the day. Just by writing it down, nothing happens. But if you move towards these behaviors, you will learn it over time. But the idea behind it is when things get busy or messy or there is stress, that you remind yourself of this North Star, that you recalibrate and act accordingly. The takeaway here, direction beats force. Always seek clarity and follow your North Star. And with that, we move to action, respectively by prioritizing consistency over randomness. Long-term success is never accidental. It's the outcome of systematic, repeated action over time. Based on the world's largest high-performance study, high performers consistently manage their energy, they know what they want, and they take decisive, intentional action. By the way, I created a video about each of these habits. There is a link in the description if you want to go deeper. Intentional action follows a simple rhythm. Let me show you 2 examples. The first example is about weight loss. Let's imagine if your goal would be to lose 16 kilo by the end of December this year. In a first step, you would chunk down that goal into more digestible, clear, tangible steps, such as losing 4 kilo by quarter. And in a second step, you would break that down into weekly outcomes. So if we take 3/4, 4 kilo divided by 12 weeks, would be approximately to lose 333 grams per week as an outcome. And of course, you would need to have a plan how to achieve that. I would say the main principle would simply be to burn more energy than you consume, and then to take action to achieve that goal. But your weekly goal, when you plan the week, would be that by the end of next week, or let's say next Friday, you would be 333 grams lighter. And then you would prioritize your actions to meet that goal every day, such as, for example, to eat 3 healthy meals per day, to move every day 30 to 60 minutes, and to avoid alcohol. And in the evening, you would do a quick review. What worked, and celebrate that, and what could you improve and make better tomorrow. And the same at the end of the week. A weekly review. When I did that, I really did that. For me, my goal was 10 kilo in 6 months, a few years back. I checked my weight every Saturday, and I made the review on Saturday mornings. Or if your goal would be to develop a YouTube channel and reach 10,000 subscribers by the end of the year, you would again break down a bigger goal into digestible, clear steps, such as, for example, to reach by the end of the first quarter 2,500 subscribers, by the end of the second quarter 4,500, end of the third quarter 7,500, and the end of the fourth quarter 10,000 subscribers. And then you would break down that goal into weekly outcomes and have a principle, a kind of strategy to make that happen, of course, such as, for example, to make better videos more often, at least ideally publish 1 video a week. This is actually my real goal, and me as an example, I start with a 90-day challenge for the first quarter, and depending on the experience I gain in the first quarter, I will define a new plan, new goal for the second quarter, and the same for the third and the fourth quarter. But if your goal would be to make a certain revenue of, let's say, 10 million per year, it would be the same. You would divide it into chunks, quarterly chunks ideally, and then make weekly plans to reach that goal. But back to this context, you would do a weekly planning session, or I do weekly planning sessions, and I know what outcome I want to achieve by Friday next week, such as, for example, by uploading 1 new video by Friday 5 o'clock. And then every day you would prioritize your action to make that weekly goal happen. And the idea here is to focus on the so-called needle movers, or with other words, high impact activities. Or in the context of a video production, it would be to plan it, to research it, script it, film it, edit it, publish it, and to review, kind of a lessons learned session. And the rest is the same as in the previous example, a daily evening review and a weekly review to see how you progressed and what you could improve. But the takeaway is this: you win with repeated actions and by consistently focusing what matter the most, respectively by focusing on needle-moving activities to achieve your specific goal. And the only missing piece for a robust mindset is to master our thoughts and trust ourselves. The way we think shapes our lives. Negative self-talk is very common and mostly unconscious, but we can consciously choose encouraging thoughts. High performers very typically have a growth mindset. They don't focus on the problem, they rather focus on the solution. Respectively, they want to understand the problem and the context and why it happened, but they are focused on finding solutions to overcome it. Let me give you some concrete examples. So instead of thinking I can't, they would rather think I cannot yet, but I can learn it. Instead of thinking I don't know, they think let me find out who knows this, and they ask someone for help. Or instead of thinking this is too hard, they think let me find out the skills needed to make it happen. Or instead of thinking I've tried everything, let me find someone who masters this and try a different approach. Or the excuse that worked for them but not for me. Fact is, confidence, skill and success can be trained. Or instead of saying that's easier said than done, think let's make a plan and define the 3 to 5 steps needed to get it done. Or instead of saying you don't understand, they rather think, okay, how can I explain this better? So ask yourself, what is one specific thought that would help you, that would encourage you? When I was in a high pressure situation in the tech industry a few years ago, I wrote down the thoughts that I wanted to think and put it on a pinboard, on my pinboard here. And the thought that I wrote down on the paper is, the situation is what it is. I see it as an opportunity for growth, and I can figure it out. This helped me lead my thoughts in a positive direction and in a direction that would bring me forward, that would drive my growth and not waste energy with negative thoughts. I simply focused on growth, and every day I focused on needle-moving activities. The key takeaway here is self-trust beats self-criticism. Make it a habit to think encouraging thoughts. So to summarize, if you take full ownership of your thoughts, actions, reactions, and behaviors, you build a rock-solid foundation for long-term success. If you want to go deeper on the science behind the high-performance habits, I would recommend this video here. And otherwise, remember to follow your North Star every day, set an alarm, and I look forward to see you again.